Do you remember when every phone company had their own charger cable? Then you couldn't just borrow a friend's charger because if it was from a different company, it probably wouldn't work with your phone. It was frustrating to say the least. And then various companies eventually came together and they agreed on a single standard, the USB-C, and just like that, any phone that adopted this standard could work with any USB-C charger from any other company. The Gen AI world is going through something similar right now. We've got different models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Each have their own slightly different ways for connecting to your data and your tools. And MCP, the Model Context Protocol, is a new open standard aimed to bring some order to this chaos. And in the next few minutes, I will walk you through what it is, what problem it solves, and how you can start building on this. So let's start with the problem it aims to solve, first of all. LLM apps like ChatGPT or Claude are great, but out of the box, they can't really interact with your other systems or data. So for example, ChatGPT can write you a poem, but it can't save that poem to your desktop for you. That step is still on you. Neither can your LLM create a calendar event nor save data to your database out of the box. And so this begs the question, how do we move from models that just generate things to models that can actually do things? Before MCP, people used something called tool calling. Basically, you define functions that the LLM could talk to. So for example, a function like save text to file. And when I then ask my LLM to write a poem and save it, the LLM writes the poem and then asks me to call that function to save the file. And again, this worked, but here's the issue. Every LLM platform had its own slightly different format for working with tools. I mean, it's the exact same logic, but slightly different schemas. So if you build tools for one platform and you wanted to switch to another one without using a framework, you couldn't just plug them in. You'd have to rewrite the integration. And of course, this doesn't scale at all nicely. And this is where MCP comes in, the Model Context Protocol. Now, MCP itself is not a tool, it's not even a framework. It's really an open standard, like a shared set of guidelines for how AI apps should connect to context. And by context, I mean the tools and data the apps need. So instead of every LLM platform or company inventing their own format, MCP gives us one way of doing it. So on a high level, MCP defines three main components in their specification, and they follow the client-server model. So you've got the servers, you've got the hosts, and you've got the clients. Your servers are what provide the service or data or resource your LLM app needs. So for example, there's an official Google Drive MCP server, which is essentially like functions that just expose Drive functionality. And your host is the LLM application itself. So if you think about Cloud Desktop or Cursor or your custom LLM app, the client sits inside the host and handles the translation or communication between the LLM app and the MCP servers. So quick example, say you tell your LLM, save this episode summary to my Google Drive in the podcast folder. The LLM prepares the episode summary as usual, sends it to the Google Drive MCP server, and it's saved just like that. Now, if you want to add support for Dropbox, all you need to do is just plug in the Dropbox MCP server instead. No rewrites, no weird setup, it just works. You can write your own MCP servers using the official SDKs, and any MCP compatible host can use it just like that. And you can find more on this on the documentation, and you can find a list of pre-built servers at the link in the video right now. Now, I think this is actually a big deal because it means LLMs can now do things like create Jira tickets or post updates in your Slack or pull analytics or sales data on demand or even connect to your internal company APIs, all through one shared protocol. For some quick limitations, MCP doesn't solve everything you need. On one hand, there's still a lot of conversation around authorization and authentication and security. And not all LLM platforms support it yet, although adoption is growing. Like I think OpenAI has adopted it in their agents SDK. But MCPs really just help us by giving a shared language that scales. And for developers, this means less time rewriting integrations and more time building once and using in most places. So let me know, are you using MCP? What are some of your favorite use cases? And let me know what topic you'd want me to do a quick review on next. Have a wonderful rest of the day.